Welcome back to another video. Today I got 5 mistakes beginner photographers need to avoid. Let's face it, so making mistakes is part of the game. We definitely learn a lot faster the more mistakes we make. And I wanted to share some of the ones that I made early on just so that you can avoid them to save yourself some time and maybe some money. So let's jump in with mistake number 1, and this is not thoroughly checking your backgrounds. So when I'm setting up a shot, I have a little checklist. I look at my subject, I look at their face, their clothes, their limbs, what they're doing, and then I move into the background. What are the elements? Is there things sticking out of the back of their head? Is there something coming through their ear? Is there trash? Is there debris? What's going on outside of just the one subject that I'm really focused on? What's happening in the rest of the frame? So keeping the backgrounds clean is something that's gonna save you a lot of time in post. I know the things that I just mentioned are easily removed, or some of them aren't as easily removed in post, but they are definitely removable. But why spend time behind your computer when you can take a couple seconds just to change it in the moment during your photo shoot? This is something that I say beginners do a lot, but if you think about it, even pro-level cinema DPs and multi-million-dollar films have made this mistake with putting coffee cups in a scene or things in the background they missed. So it is something that everybody kind of makes the mistake, but make a checklist, make checking the background part of your checklist before you click the shutter. Okay, so mistake number 2 is stop categorizing or limiting focal lengths to one specific task. So back in the day, they started making rules. And rules are important because it gives you a foundation. Now, the focal length rule is an 85mm, for example, is supposed to be the best portrait lens. It's supposed to be a portrait lens. It makes people's facial features look flattering. It compresses the background somewhat. It's only a portrait lens. I challenge you to try different approaches to your focal lengths. So your 85mm focal length, which is supposed to be a portrait lens, try making a landscape with it. Try shooting architecture, try shooting something different than it's known for. I actually made a video on this, shooting portraits with a 24mm lens. This is typically known to be a wide angle or landscape lens, but knowing the factors of what it can do, I discovered that I could make really cool portraits with it. I will link that video in the description below. My point is, work your lenses, work your different focal lengths to see what it is they can do. Go everywhere with it. Don't limit it to what you're told, especially these days. I found that lots of people are using wide angle lenses for portraits, for ads, to shoot products. Limiting your focal length to one thing means that you'll be stuck when you go out and you forgot your portrait lens or you forgot your landscape lens. The name of the game here, I think, or what I'm getting at, is start knowing your lens inside and out, what it can do. You might notice that you create a new style for yourself based on maybe stopping your lens down, not using it wide open. Stop limiting your focal length to one thing, try using it for multiple things. That brings us to mistake number 3, and this is upgrading your gear too soon. Just like I mentioned in mistake number 2, use your gear until you're sick of it, until you feel like it's holding you back. Don't buy a new piece of gear because you watched a video, a review. I know we're making YouTube videos, we're teaching you things, and the same person that's teaching you is also making a review on a new product, and the new product has all these things that are enticing and you want to buy them. I've made this mistake in the past where I bought something I didn't need or wasn't ready for because it sounded like they were talking to me and all the things they listed were really enticing. The other day I went to the Apple store and noticed that there was lots of people super excited about buying a new piece of equipment, a new iPhone, watch, whatever it is. I know that buying new gear definitely triggers a feeling of excitement. And as a new photographer, it's best that you exhaust your gear, get the most out of it until it's slowing you down. This, I'm talking about beginners. If you're a pro that got a job and you need a specific piece of gear, buy it, make the money, get the specialized item you need. But for beginners that you're just practicing, you're just learning compositions, learning what you like, keep using the same camera body. My general rule of thumb for camera bodies is replacing them after 5 years. Even if there's a new model that just came out, I keep my same one that I'm using. There's no need to replace something that isn't broken, that works fine, that I'm super familiar with. The new gear definitely isn't gonna make you a better photographer. You get to be a better photographer by practicing your craft, by getting out there and shooting. I know sometimes new gear does make you shoot more because you wanna use the new stuff, but I encourage you, stick with what you got for a little bit longer than you think you need it and get to know it just that much more. Then buy the new stuff when you have more skills. Okay, moving right through the list to mistake number 4, and that is leveling your horizon. So I mentioned film before. There is a technique in film that is supposed to cause anxiety. And unless you're trying to do this within your photo, if that's the message you're trying to give, level out your horizons. The trick that I learned is setting my focus points on my DSLR so that they're inside the viewfinder. When they're in the viewfinder, I just line them up with the horizon. If I'm on my iPhone, I turn on the grid lines, and then that gives an easy way to level out the horizon. If you discover that you made the mistake, it's easy to level horizons in post. It's something that I highly recommend doing. It's definitely a beginner's mistake, and it can be easily fixed. Okay, so let's jump into the last mistake that beginners make, and this is photo editing. I know this is highly subjective because it is your style, but there's one common thing that I see within beginners, and this is pumping up the clarity slider too far, pumping up the vibrance too far, and also the saturation. These 3 sliders should be used very sparingly. +5 is the most that I would use. One mantra that I like to use is less is more, especially with photo editing. You think that, you know, it's subtle, but when you compare it to the original, it's unrealistic and, you know, isn't very pleasing to the eye. If your style is super saturated and making skin tones not look natural, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. But if it's not that and you want to make things look realistic, just ease back on those 3 sliders. I think your viewers will appreciate it. Next, head over to this video on subframing. It's a composition technique that I think you'll like. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're not already. Hit the like button if you learned something from this video. I will see you in the next one.